A growing number of Koreans are choosing to surrender summer holiday plans amid a host of reasons that are keeping them from much-needed rest, which pundits say is crucial to ensure personal health and overall productivity. So what are the main reasons prompting these people to surrender summer vacation? How does this sad reality compare to that of the broader global community? And are there some smart ways to ensure quality summer rest and pleasure? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today we talk about summer holiday plans or the lack of them here in Korea as compared to the reality elsewhere. For more on this, I have Professor David Tizzard from Seoul Women's University here in the studio with us. Professor Tizzard, it's been a while. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me. Nice to see you again.
I also have Kwon Soa with us. Soa, welcome back.
Hello, happy to be here.
Right then, so let's start off with details about the average number of summer holidays for Korean workers this year.
Right, the average number of days that Korean workers spend for their summer break this year is less than 4. And that is according to a survey by Korea Enterprises Foundation last month. So that's not necessarily the number their companies or employers give them, but the actual days they do take off for their summer break. So there is also a difference, though, observed depending on the size of a business. So let's take a look at these figures here. 3.7 days is the total average of businesses that took part in the survey. And people working at companies with 300 or more employees, they take off on average 4.3 days, and in the case of businesses with fewer than 300 people, it's 3.6 days. And as you can see, the average hasn't changed from last year, so that's despite the transition into pre-pandemic lives. It looks like still people do not go for a long period on their summer vacations. Now, according to the survey, a little over 57% of salary earners at businesses with more than 300 employees have at least 5 days of summer holidays. But over 53% of those working at smaller businesses of less than 300 people go on a 3-day or shorter break. While most workers enjoy their summer vacation in early August this year, there is a difference in the period from which they can choose from. Over 71% of businesses related to manufacturing have a 1-week time frame set for the summer break. Over 77% of the non-manufacturing sector has a span of 1 to 2 months. Meanwhile, in terms of holiday bonuses, 58.4% of businesses said this year that they are going to give their employees bonuses, and that is up 0.7 percentage points from last year.
Right, I see. And now, Professor Tizzard, as Soa mentioned, on average, Koreans have fewer than 4 days of summer holiday this year. How does this particular reality compare to that of its counterparts elsewhere? And what can you share with us about your own experience?
I'm slowly thinking about how somebody can have 3.7 days holiday. We have a lot of statistics and a lot of data, which is very important, but Korea is composed of individuals, and I think it's we're required to think about what kind of individuals are working and what kind of holidays are they taking. Are they old? Are they young? Are they rich? Are they poor? Male, female, attractive or otherwise? And then what kind of holidays are they going on? There is also this idea that it shows Koreans now expect summer holidays. A summer holiday is something that we're almost taking for granted now. Korean people were only really legally allowed to travel abroad from January 1st, 1989. So there's about 30 years of experience of going abroad. And Korea's economic development, these change in resources means that if people have, for example, less than 4 days summer holiday, it's seen as a travesty and a news story. And I can't help but think that if you spoke to people from the 1960s or 70s, the 50s, about a 3-4 day holiday overseas in the sun as being a recipe for disaster or a national emergency that must be discussed on the news, they might look at you and wonder what planet you were from or what you might be smoking. But yet here we are in 2023, and I think it just goes to show us how far Korea has come. The holidays currently being taken are seen as inadequate or a sense of news. I will say, you asked for my personal recollections or my personal experiences. My how do you say, my laundryman is on holiday all week, and so I've had to go through all of my shirts. Well, he's not here. And most of the students that I see on social media, they're all in various parts of the world, ranging from Jeju to Taiwan to Japan to Hong Kong. So people are traveling still. It's not like everybody is here.
Right, right, it really is. So studies, however, do show that Korea itself has the longest working hours, but the weakest work-life balance. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Right, although we do talk a lot about the work-life balance in Korea in the past years. We call it the worabe here in Korea. It looks like it hasn't really materialized. A research paper that analyzes the current state of work-life balance in Korean society compared the balance between Koreans' work life and personal life to that of advanced countries. So the Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs said that Korea had the longest working hours among 31 out of 38 OECD countries. 31 just because that's the number of countries that had sufficient relevant data available for the study. And this is as of 2021. So 1,601 hours. That's the time Koreans spent working on average in a year. And when it comes to leisure time after work, Koreans have 258 minutes per day, one of the shortest times. Lithuania and Portugal were the only countries behind with 247 and 241 minutes respectively. To put it better into perspective, let's compare this to Norway, which had the longest after-work free time at 368 minutes, meaning Koreans have nearly 2 hours less leisure time. So based on these measurements, as well as other criteria such as income, childcare, vacation, about which we learned they do not go for a long time. The work-life balance for Korean workers was in the bottom of a 4-tier grouping. Out of a total of 1 point, Korea's work-life balance index stood at 0.11, the lowest behind Greece and the Czech Republic. The report did, however, note that there have been shifts in working environment trends, saying the pursuit of a healthier and productive lifestyle is on the rise. And I also found a survey by the same institute earlier this year showing that the average amount of work that Koreans wished to work was 36.7 hours a week on average. For regular workers, it was 37.6 hours, and for temporary or daily employed workers, 32.4 hours. And also, interestingly, there is a difference by age. Respondents aged 19 to 29 wanting to work less than 35 hours a week. So the younger they were, the time diminished as well. And also, I believe Professor Tizzard also talked about this, but there are many young people on social media seen traveling around the world. So it might seem that the younger generation is taking more time than the older generation.
Right, to get some quality rest, hopefully, right, Professor Tizzard? Professor, what do you believe then are the perhaps broader repercussions of an inability to balance work and life for people in general, of course?
I think we should come to understand that everybody's different. And so scientists will tell us that you need 8 hours sleep and 8 cups of water a day. You will encounter people in your life that get by on 5 hours sleep. You'll see people that need 9 hours sleep. You'll see people with a six-pack that don't drink water, and everybody is different. Now, we have this idea that there is a set lifestyle that makes us healthy, or that we should adhere to, that a work-life balance is the key to a healthy mind. But just as we have wolabel, as Soa has said, this idea of a work-life balance, we also have the idea of katseng, which is the God life in South Korea. And I see many young people around me at the universities, they're often the ones doing very well, that focus on living what they call this God life, where they're incredibly productive and where they push themselves to limits which perhaps inconceivable for other people. The world is there. They have all of this opportunity in an open society, and it's for them to go and grab these things. I always point to an interview that the leader of BTS, RM, gave with the Spanish newspaper, I believe it was El Maja, in which he said that South Korea suffered colonization, it suffered imperialism, it suffered dictatorship, internal and external oppression. And to get where it is today, topping Billboard charts with New Jeans and everything that it's doing, it had to work hard. That was the only way to get here. It wasn't enough to sit back and enjoy this leisure time. So there has been this focus in South Korea on achieving the inconceivable, on pushing South Korea onto the world stage, and that's a view that's here, and so is the work-life balance. So I think sometimes we need to recognize all these stories and celebrate the fact that South Korea has an open society where those who want to work hard can, those who want to sit back and do a little bit less can, and the options are there for everybody, and we shouldn't try to impose one onto the other, but let people live their lives. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right, of course. I completely agree with you right there.
Okay.
Meanwhile, so another reality though here among Koreans, of course, is that some of them are actually surrendering their summer vacation plans owing to financial restrictions and a number of other reasons I hear. Could you tell us more?
Right, 6 out of 10 workers said the reason for why they do not plan to go on a summer break is because they do not have enough cash at hand. So 갑질 119, a civic organization that advocates for rights of workers, conducted a survey in which 62% of 1,000 workers aged 19 and older gave this reply. Less than 44% had vacations plans this summer season. Over 36% have not yet decided whether to take a break or not. And 20% said it wasn't even an option. So the correlation between the financial situation of a worker and his or her holiday plans appeared to be evident as the survey showed a bigger proportion of people from lower paying and smaller sized workplaces answered vacation was not an immediate plan, while employees at bigger firms with higher wages had a higher number of people going on or planning on vacation. And apart from the money issue, excessive workload, too short vacation, being afraid that going on vacation would get on the nerves of superiors were also mentioned. And a similar survey by another civic group, Workplace Abuse 119, said among 1,000 employees aged over 19, over half of the respondents had either no plans or were undecided on a summer vacation. Again, the top reason was financial burdens. The overall economy also plays a role as, according to market researcher PMI, inflation is making things worse. Citing Statistics Korea data, in June, hotel prices surged some 11% on average compared to the year before, and package tour programs were also up by 5% on year. And this year, Sunny, we had another big factor, the harsher than usual monsoon season, which led to dozens of casualties and damages across the country, and which also led to people cancel their summer vacations.
Right, quite a number of members of the members here in the country, of course, feeling that going on vacation at this particular moment is not appropriate. Professor Tizzard, for those who do wish to go on vacation but cannot, owing to the various reasons mentioned by Soa, what do you suppose are ways to allow them some quality rest? I understand it's a difficult question, but in your personal view.
South Korea has just experienced the global COVID-19 pandemic, and this put a great pressure on everybody. We all had to, in certain ways, restrict our lifestyles, restrict our travel. Many small, medium enterprises, self-employed people and big companies all experienced the turbulence that was the pandemic. Numbers in the country are rising again, according to reports, but South Korea has emerged from that pandemic relatively successfully in terms of its overall economy. And the country should be applauded for that. Now, can we create a society in which everybody can have this distribution of resources and experience summer holidays? It was said that financial reasons are some of the most. And so that's for the government. That's for the government to have all of these resources that South Korea now possesses in terms of financial capital, cultural and social capital, and to find a way to distribute them so that people at any level of society, whether they're upper class, middle class or lower class, they feel that not only are their contributions recognized, they feel like a valuable member of society, they feel seen in society, but also they're allowed to express themselves and use their leisure time in ways they want. And so that's a responsibility of the government. The politicians have to create the various policies to do that, and we can only hope that they one day might work together to do that rather than spend all their time fighting with each other about these policies. So I think that it will come. South Korea will get there, but at the moment it's about this distribution of resources and I think allowing people to be seen in society, and that will make people feel a whole lot better, irrespective of their financial position or the tickets in their passport.
Right, of course. So even among Koreans who do choose to go on holiday, I understand the key words are short term, short distance, and low cost.
Right. Remember the average number of days that people will spend? 3.7. So we talked about the short term. And as the vacation is already short, it makes sense that you don't stay on the road or are on the go for around 1/3 of your vacation. So that's where the short distance comes. And as many workers have been complaining about the financial burden of going on holiday, plus the inflation factor, spending less is more. No luxurious hotels for 1 or 2 weeks and not flying out of the country. Market researcher firm Consumer Insight said that 500 consumers who went on a trip in May this year spent an average of 230,000 won, that's roughly $177 during a trip that lasted a little less than 3 days. 2.96 is the actual days that they gave. So some 76,000 won or $58 a day. And that's an on-year drop by 15.6% from 90,000 won or $69 a day. So how do they save the money? They take into consideration where they stay, what they eat, and what they buy at their travel spots. So for instance, when it comes to accommodation, instead of going to a luxury hotel and, going on a 호캉스, which would translate into a luxurious staycation, people would rather stay at a friend's house who lives in a different city. In fact, hotel stays accounted for 32.5% in March. It's a drop to 28.3% in June. And staying at a family or a relative's place or a friend's place, this percentage actually grew from April, May to June consecutively, from 14.8% to 16.4% and then to 17.4% in June. Accommodations, food package, tour prices are all up, as I mentioned before. And according to travel agency Hana Tour, the form of members that travel together is also changing. Before the pandemic, it was either independent trips or group tours involving more than 20 people that were the main travel groups, while in 2023, the trend is 2 people groups or groups of a handful of family members or friends.
Right, I see. Professor Tizzard, how does this local slogan of short distance, short term and low cost compare or resonate with that in the broader global community? We are here under the impression that our counterparts over in Europe would have very long holidays lasting about a month or so.
And they all have a 2-story house with a white picket fence and a dog named Spot. Yes, I'm sure that is the stereotype, and Colin Firth stands outside with his umbrella. What I love listening to this idea of short-term, low cost. Is it beautifully reflects what's happening in Korean society at the moment amongst young people. Now, 2 points to make quickly. One would be that every generation has different words, different values, and different ways that they express themselves. And we're seeing what the Generation Z are doing in South Korea these days, and we immediately say, well, no, that's not how we did it. That's not what you should be doing. That's not what Europe is doing, as you've just suggested. But it's important for us to see it in their own terms and to see why they're doing it. Now, the second point I would make is that culture is always a solution to a problem. We sometimes look at all of these things and we say, that's a problem. But I think sometimes we have that perspective twisted, and we should say, that is a solution that people have found to the problem. So let's take the coffee culture in Korea, which I think beautifully resonates with this. The coffee culture in Korea, everybody drinks coffee, most people. But they don't sit around in Parisian cafes sipping espressos and talking about philosophy. The coffee culture in Korea is about getting a very large iced drink in a plastic cup on the go. So you can, and the reason that's emerged is because it's a solution to a problem. The solution is people are busy, people are tired, people want caffeine, and they want it cheaply and efficiently. And so we've seen spring up all of these various chains and franchises that sell such coffee. This is the way young people are living their lives. There's also hashtags about frugality and not spending any money per day. And so I think it's not just about holidays, but we can see this more broadly, the way that Generation Z are living their lives in terms of vacation, daily spending, coffee, and this is what they've decided is their solution to the problem that the current environment has faced. And you know, it seems to be working, I would add. It will pose other problems in the future, but at the moment, I think it's our responsibility to see what these young people are doing as a solution, as their culture, to recognize it, and then hopefully produce even better culture going forward.
Right, fingers crossed for that. So also here in Korea, those who are able to afford some luxury, I understand, have found to favor a new form of rest, of course. Tell us more.
Right, so the R stands for rush on overseas travel. E stands for easy to reach, S, seaside vacation venues, and T, trend towards premium hotels. I wonder who made this up, but when you have time and the money, there is a bigger likelihood that you travel abroad. But for Koreans who do turn overseas to overseas travel, the current trend is to not fly too far, stay at a 4- or 5-star hotel at the seaside. So Japan and countries in Southeast Asia have become popular recently. Hotel search engine Hotels Combined and travel search engine Kayak analyzed Koreans' travel data of the summer vacation season. So in terms of searches on the internet, for instance, for flight tickets, as well as hotels abroad, surged 3 times more than last year. The transition from a COVID-19 pandemic to an endemic still seems to affect the demand for overseas trips. By destination, the biggest amount of search data was related to Tokyo in Japan, followed by Osaka in Japan, Da Nang in Vietnam, Bangkok, Thailand, and Nha Trang, Vietnam. And the biggest increase of searches compared to last year were Bohol in the Philippines and Nha Trang, Vietnam again.
Right, I see. Professor Tizzard, imagine you were asked to plan, let's say, a trip here in Korea for a foreign couple. What would you include in that particular agenda?
What a wonderfully beautiful hypothetical question. Well, what I would do, Ms. Min, is I would first give them a tablet filled with some Arirang news programs and a Kim Kwon-sok CD and some Sanal Lim and a Korea Deconstructed podcast episodes. I would then give them my credit card, and I would send them out to the east coast to Gangwon-do, and I would let them go amongst the mountains, the valleys, the streams, where the sky is high and the wind blows. I would encourage them to eat some 오징어 sundae, some squid sundae, some 단호박 식혜, some sweet pumpkin rice wine, and
I'm sold. It sounds splendid.
Yes, well, that's what the foreign couple would experience. I think that's a wonderful way to really understand Korea. If I just make one point about these holidays and the destinations that Soa was mentioning, we've planned to go to Da Nang in Vietnam in September, and I do wonder with that extended Chuseok holiday that we have this year, whether some people are foregoing the summer holiday and putting their holidays there, because when we tried to book our tickets to Da Nang, most of the airlines are already sold out, fully booked. And so I wonder if it's the case of whether we do this survey again around that time, you'll find a great number of South Korean people all leaving the country there.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah,
really
so maybe it's just delayed.
Right. All right, Professor Tizzard, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts today.
Thank you.
Soa, thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure.
Right, well, on that note, we end this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow. That is Friday.